Well, good morning, everybody. Um, we started a bit early. I'm just waiting for a certain amount of people to come on, and then we will start the seminar. Obviously, you can see that I'm working from home, and obviously due to the coronavirus, and very shortly we will get started. Okay, I think we're ready to start. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Brian Chaffe. I'm head of BMW, and today we're going to be covering BMW coding and programming using the DrivePRO, and let's get started. So here, as you can see, any questions you have, I will try and answer at the end, and we shall now get started on the presentation. Today we're going to be talking about coding and programming BMW vehicles as regards to starting from the early days up until the present day. And today I'd like to give you a little brief history of myself. I've been working here at Autologic Opus IVS for the last 18 years, and I've been very fortunate to travel the world, carry out teaching all around the world. And today is my first webinar. So let's see how we go. I just want to give you a brief history on programming BMW vehicles, and this history will be covering from the beginning, when we used to start with variant coding on ECUs. The variant coding back in the early days on E46 vehicles, E38s, E39 vehicles, where we had a 4-digit code, and that 4-digit code we entered into the control unit to give it its coding variant. And then on BMW we moved on to EEPROM technology, and with EEPROM technology we had a one-hit wonder. In other words, we could program this particular EEPROM once only. If it failed while programming, then we had to fit a new EEPROM. In them days, you had a little window on top of the microprocessor, which you could put ultraviolet light to, and you could wipe it if you wanted to, and then you could then create another program inside it. But you only had one chance at this, one chance only. And then we moved on to flash programming. In flash programming, we had 14 slots on that ECU. One of those slots was used up from the factory, and so you had 13 chances of when that vehicle came into your shop, you could program it 13 times more. In those days when we were working on early vehicles on BMW, your E36s, your E53s, what we could do then was, if the controlling factor of immobilization was called the EWS system. The EWS system was started at EWS 1, and then EWS 2, and then it went to EWS 3, and there was 3D and 3.3. So what we had was, in the early days, we could get a control unit from another car, the same vehicle, same ECU, and what we could do is we could then take that ECU and put it into the E36, E38, and we didn't have to program it. We literally it had the program already in it. It was the same vehicle. Let's take an example. It was a M3.1 Motronic. We could take it from that vehicle, put it into the car, and then all we needed to do then was align the EWS to it if it had EWS. Some of the early vehicles didn't have it, as EWS came out in 1994. And then we could just align it and we could start the vehicle and away we could go. Well, as time's gone on, obviously we can't do that anymore because EWS 3 came out. On E46s, it came out on the Z3. They only had EWS 3 or 3D. And that stopped us from taking the control module from one module, even for test purposes. It stopped us from doing it unless we took the key and the EWS with us, and then we could take it over. Then what we had to do then was we had to put some tinfoil around the key in the key lock, lift the aerial up off the socket. We could drop our donor key into the aerial, EWS aerial. We could plug in the EWS into the vehicle, and then we could use the donor one, and then we could use the donor DME, and then we could use the key that was in the barrel with the foil around it to crank it to start the vehicle, and we could then test it to find out if that control unit was faulty. That was only, remember now, the controlling factor was in this was obviously the EWS system. When we moved to CAS, this didn't become so easy to do. So when we went to E65s, E60 vehicles, that was not so easy for us to do. So moving on now into the programming of vehicles. First of all, we must obviously connect a good support unit to the vehicle. Now, if people don't have a good support vehicle, obviously we sell them as a company. And obviously if you contacted Opus IVS, we could supply you with that sort of product. We also need to connect the support unit in the correct way to the vehicle. And there is a small picture on the screen showing us where the jump point under the hood or under the bonnet, we need to connect to the good positive jump point and to the good ground point on the vehicle to support programming. There is different procedures we will go through in this webinar on what we should be doing on the different vehicles when we carry out the programming. So first of all, we're going to start looking at our E46 vehicles, our E39s, our E38s, X5 E53s, where we carried out programming. Now, not all of these vehicles were capable to be programmed. And in the early days, we could only program the DME or the transmission controller, the EGS. So I have a list here of all the ECUs that were capable of programming. Remember now, these only had 14 slots. So one was used at the factory, you had 13 more you could program. The highest I probably ever saw was 13 programs, 12 programs, and that was because we had it at our headquarters and we would carry out the programming on the bench. And then we had, I'm just showing you the DME programming on there, the EGS. Now you could get a vehicle in, an E46 vehicle, and it's not capable of programming the automatic transmission. Only the ones here shown on this list are capable to be done. So if you wanted this list, you can always contact me and I can then give you this list so you don't mess up when trying to program, or you don't realize that when you're looking through the programming files, there is no programming files for this particular vehicle. Showing you SMG, BTC programming, Valvetronic, early vehicles. So if you need this list, by all means, get in contact with us and we can get this out to you. So we're going to start going into a programming session on the very early vehicles. We're talking about, this would be the same procedure for Mini R50s and the R50 series. Also, obviously, E36, E38, E39, E53, E83, all those vehicles, we can then use this procedure. So first of all, we put our support unit onto our vehicle. And then we will obviously make sure that ignition is turned on. And then on the DrivePRO, we select what you can see ringed off in this slide. Once we press that, we then go to the model, which obviously is going to be BMW. And we select BMW. And then we can determine the vehicle. This will give us now a way of us being able to go into the vehicle, determine exactly what it is, produce the chassis number, and put it onto the screen for us. So as you can see, I've determined the vehicle, and the clever people out there would have seen it's TG, so it's a Mini, R50 Mini, and we can then continue. So we now go into programming. So we've now selected the vehicle, we now have the screen showing us where we can program, and it's just ringed off on there to show you we press programming. Then obviously we now go into what is the engine control module, the DME, and we get a menu of programming history, replace control unit, update control unit. The first things we want to know is the programming history. So what is the programming history of the vehicle? So it should give us the slot information. Remember now, we have 14 slots allowed in this ECU. As you can see on this particular ECU, only one slot is being used. It gives us the full chassis number. It gives us when it was done, and it also gives us a basic and program number. And that's at the end there where it reads 7. So you can see exactly what the basic and the program number is. And this could become very important depending on what we're doing. So at this particular time, I've seen the programming history. I've pressed the back button. I've come back out. I now want to go into replace control unit. I'm not updating it at this stage. I'm just showing you the features where you want to replace the control unit. Now, there could be a few scenarios here when you want to replace the control unit. On the early days, on the DME control unit, there was a white label. And on that white label, we had a full chassis number. And we had a basic and program number. It's not always easy to spot. But you can find the white label normally on the DME. Or if you had a problem with that, from that chassis number, we can determine the basic and program number through the parts department. So we could log into EPC, and then we could then find out from the chassis exactly what the basic and program number is, and I'll show you that a bit later as we go through this. But there's quite a few scenarios that could happen when you're programming these early vehicles. The vehicles have been around for a long time, and they could have had water ingress into them, a corrosion at the terminals. So what are we going to do to try and fix this? If, for instance, we have no communication to that control unit and the white label is missing. So if the white label is missing, we can then go into the program control unit, and it will say, is the faulty control unit connected to the vehicle? And then we're going to say no. And then we go in no. And then it will bring us up the chassis number of the last one that was probably recorded on here on the unit. This might not even be the actual vehicle you're working on. And then we then see at the bottom there, it says, do we have the correct ECU in the vehicle? And we're going to say at this particular time, no, we don't. Now, what that allows us to do now, we've gone into a menu where we have edit buttons. And in these edit buttons, we can carry out we can put in the chassis number manually, the basic and program number. But at this stage, we don't know what the basic and the program number is. Yes, we have access to the chassis number because obviously it's on the vehicle. So what do we have to do? What we do is we go into parts. We put obviously the last 7 into the parts, and then we go into engine electrics, and inside engine electrics will be the control unit. I've just taken a clip here from a parts department. As you can see, it says basic control unit, DME, and it gives you a long number. And that long number, we just need the last digits there, which would be as from 7 backwards. So we're talking 755 on the basic, and we're talking 756 on the program control unit. Now we need to have both those numbers. And I'll just go back a slide just to show you that we now can have the basic and program number we can put in manually. So I take the basic number, I take the program number, and I enter them in, and then I continue. But before I can continue programming this, obviously I need that file of that ECU. So just to continue, turn the ignition on, we're going to continue, and we're back now to update control unit. It's because at this stage, I have the basic, I have the program number, and I have the chassis number, but I don't have the file I need, the programming file number I need to program this ECU. So it's going to ask me, is the VIN correct? Yes, it is. It's going to ask me exactly what the model type is, and this is MS5150. It's a mini. That's the file I need to be able to program this control module. So once I have that file downloaded, once I have the basic and program number entered in there, I would be able to continue on, and I'll be able to program a control module that I had no communication to, or the control unit was faulty, and I've ordered a brand new one from BMW. So going back to the screen now, where we updated it, and we got the chassis number because it's been typed in manually, and we can continue on, and then we can program the module. But what we're actually doing now is we're actually going to go through updating the control unit. So I have the file, I'm going to continue. It's going to ask me some questions. Is it the order for this particular module? We need to upload it. We press OK. We continue on now. We come back out to the program, and we go into the actual order manager file, and it says there send orders. So we're going to send that order in. That order now, it tells me on there it's an R50 Mini. It tells me the chassis number there, and I can now select that, send that, order sent OK. It's now gone off to our servers. Our server now works out the programming file, the latest file for that particular ECU. And then we need to go into download orders. We need to give that a bit of time for the server to accept that file and give us the correct one from it. So in this case, we can download it within 5 minutes. And therefore, we then go back into the DrivePRO main menu. We go into BMW again. We then determine the vehicle again, and it tells us what the vehicle is. Obviously, all this time we need the ignition on, and then we can go into the module programming, and this time we go to update the control unit. We now from this update control unit, we just go through, and the file's already loaded. It will go in and program the control module. And if it has, the vehicle had EWS on the vehicle, and then all we need to do then is align, go into EWS and align it to the DME. and there the vehicle would start. So, excuse me. So next, we've got E-Series Programming, CIP, and obviously, again, we must be vigilant in having the support unit on the vehicle across the battery. Sorry, not across the battery, at the jump point of the vehicle. And then we can carry on with the CIP on E-Series vehicles. So on E-Series vehicles, we do exactly the same procedure we did before. We go into the DrivePRO, we determine the vehicle, we select the model type, or we determine it, and it will tell us what it is, and we go into CIP. Now, with the E-Series vehicles, the best thing to do is to, excuse me, one, have the ignition on, two, couple the seat belt across into the seat just to make sure the ignition stays on, and then we can carry on with the program. And we must always continue to check to make sure the ignition is definitely on while we're doing CIP. So first of all, what comes up is a disclaimer, and we accept that. Obviously, we can't go any further. The important part now is with CIP is to know that we have the latest CIP file downloaded into our tool. And obviously we can check that in this menu, and we can then make sure we have an upper menu there, which is in green. We have a lower menu there, which is in black. And this will tell us that we have the latest file, and we must make sure we have the latest software available. That means CIP and BMW software. Then obviously we need to put in the correct date. Once we've done that, we can then continue. In this particular exercise, we are going to be requesting a programming file for the DSC control unit. And there is options here where you can carry out CIP on a drivetrain, or if you can select it in such a way that you can add control modules that are related to each other in an updating file. So we are going to change the eye level of the vehicle, and sometimes you could get a situation where if you're doing DSC, that programming file goes in there and it's a higher programming file level than another module on that bus. And then if that was the situation, then what we would do then is we would update the all the ECUs on that bus if there was a problem. To be honest with you, I probably carried out something in the region of about 4,000 programming, and I've had probably 2 issues out of that where I've had to update all the modules on that bus. Now, when we purchase ECUs for BMW vehicles, when we're programming them, when they're brand new, the programming file is normally already installed into it. So we could just code that module, but we couldn't do that when it comes to engine, DMEs, DDEs, EGSs, transmission controllers. They would all need programming from new. But things like DSC modules, body modules, they would only need coding. So in this example here, we're going to fit a new DSC to the car, and we're going to go through the programming function of doing it. So I've selected DSC, It then says a CIP order has been generated for this vehicle. I press OK, and then I go into our menu for sending orders. Now, we send the order off by going into the module programming order manager. We then go in there, we can then find that particular vehicle that we've requested it for, and then we can send it. Once this has been sent on E-Series, F or G-Series, we need to give the server time to generate that file. So we need to think about something about 15-20 minutes, and then we can download, go in there and check the download order. You can check the download order any time, go in there, and you just have to press the refresh button and it will tell you whether that file has been downloaded or not. So we've now downloaded the file. It's in the DrivePRO unit. We go back into the main menu again and we run through that same procedure. And this time the file will be in there. So when we go to DSC, there'll be a program button. We press program button and we program it. If we wanted to code it, we can obviously automatically code it. So we are we're now on to F and G series vehicles. With F series vehicles and G series vehicles, I like to have the supply unit in charge mode. And there's some ways we can find out if you're worried about what the size of the battery is, what type of battery is, then we can find that out by running CIP, and we could then look under, we could go into the vehicle order, and then under EWART you would see what the battery type is. It might say A90 would be an AGM 90 amp hour battery. So we could then set the charger to exactly what we want to do. Again, the menu is the same. Go into DrivePRO. Now, with F and G series vehicles, on top of your DrivePRO, you have to add, obviously, when we were programming E series vehicles, we had solely the main diagnostic cable plugged into the top of the unit, which you can see there is number 1. But when we're doing F and G series vehicles, we need to have the USB to Ethernet adapter connected to the harness. So we would change the cable that we need to do this on these vehicles. And as you can see by the picture there, that we plugged in our white USB to Ethernet adapter. And at the far end of it, where the black lead plugs into it, there will be 2 little LEDs. And this could be quite important for us to know that there is data transfer happening when we go through to carry out programming. It's just a little bit of help. We can see whether or not when we go into programming through the Ethernet, that it's actually switched on and the LEDs are pulsing away, so we know we have communication. So we select the vehicle, we also identify the vehicle that we did previously, and as you can see, this particular vehicle is an F07, and we're going to carry on with our CIP. So we now checked again to make sure our software level of our CIP is correct. It matches the latest version. If it doesn't match the latest, we must stop here and we must update it. So we do need to update our BMW and our CIP. In this particular menu, you can see there is a ring around the button that says CIP File Management. This shows us how we've been and what vehicles we've been programming, and gives us a list of the ones that have been downloaded and programmed. And now obviously we can control what we're doing in there. If we completed a programming session, then we could easily just delete that session once we've completed it. Obviously, we don't delete something we haven't completed, but you could then carry out a little service here of your filing system that you had downloaded to the tool. Again, the disclaimer comes up, we accept our disclaimer, and then we go in and it asks us about, is our Ethernet connection connected to the tool? And obviously we agree that it has been. And then we now need, it says there that is a driver seatbelt connected. So we now connect the buckle on our driver seatbelt. When we're programming, even though we're programming certain files, certain control modules, what our problem is that when we run the cable from the DrivePRO unit or Blue Box or Assist Plus, we run it under the door, so it doesn't go through the glass, because if we select certain programming modes, what will happen is it will try, and then we will have to try and calibrate the windows, or the windows might go up and it would just chop the cable clean off. So what we do is we run the cable, we run the unit under the cable under the vehicle and into the diagnostic port. And we now have to go through one other little feature here. It says here that is the Ethernet connection, and it's now trying to communicate to it while we're running through it. And in this particular case, it says a measure plan has already been created for this vehicle. If you hadn't gone through CIP, then this would not come up. It would run into and carry out a measure plan. What a measure plan is, it is a complete analysis of the programming level of the vehicle and tells you exactly if there is an update for that particular module. And there could be a few of them, obviously, that are on there that show us exactly what level they're at and what it's going to take it to. Now, the beauty of using the DrivePRO, the Assist Plus, or Blue Boxes is when we're programming these vehicles, we have a choice. And the choice is we could carry out the full measure plan, depending what's in that full measure plan. Or what we can do is we can control what we're going to program. We can select one module if that's what we want to do. So that's the beauty of this. But by doing that, we would need to change the measure plan. So we'll run through the measure plan, look at the vehicle, see the programming level of the control modules, and then give us a list of all the ones that could be updated. But in that list, we might only want to be doing one of them, because we don't program for fun. The reason why we don't program for fun is because the vehicles are, some of the modules are susceptible to poor programming. They fail. So we need to be careful on what we're doing and what ECUs we do. And what we've done is we built in a program that we know of the control modules that are susceptible to poor programming or have extremely large file content. So what we do is we carry out a evaluation of these and we put them on a hold. And what would happen then is that you might see from an email, or you might see from that this particular file is on hold. And then what you would do is you would call the technical department, and the technical department will then obviously give you a guide on what to do next and give you an offer. Do you really want to program this module or not? Because obviously there could be an issue with it that they know of. And then if you say, yes, I'd like to go ahead, then obviously then the ball will be definitely 100% in your court. So what do we have? We have a situation where we're going to program the vehicle, and we know of certain modules that we would not program. Entertainment systems, we obviously have a large restriction on. The filing system is very, very large, and it's susceptible to programming issues. Instrument clusters on F series vehicles or G series vehicles, large files have large programming issues. So there we have a control over that filing system. But all you need to do is you just need to contact the technical department, and they will obviously give you some guidance on what to do next. And remember, they're always there to help. So in this particular case, it said to us about the measure plan. Now, it's going to generate this measure plan, and I don't want to use this measure plan because I have one module I want to program. I don't want to program 5, 6, or 7 of them. So let's carry on and see what it would do now. It would try and communicate to the vehicle. While it's communicating to the vehicle, this could take quite a while because there's a lot of ECUs depending on what model of vehicle it is, and there'll be a lot of ECUs it needs to read and get the data from. Then it would go into, this is one of the steps where on F series vehicles, it would hold for quite a while, which is on step 4. And then it checks the versions and the files that are allocated to this particular module. And then it will then hold, because there could be something in the region, depending when it was last updated. The further away it was last updated, the larger the updates will be for this particular module. So it will hold there for quite some time. And then it will go then on to reading the control units. So now it's read the control units. It gives us a vehicle report. And then once the vehicle report is there, we can look into it and find out what is it we really want to do next. So first of all, we have an option in this menu where we can look into the display the vehicle order. So if we display the vehicle order, it gives us a wonderful array of numbers, and it gives us the paint code, it gives you the time criteria, it gives us, but the interesting part about it would be just at the bottom of the menu there, you can see it says EWART. EWART is telling us in that it says A90. So we have an AGM battery fitted to this car with 90 amp hour. So that's given us a little bit of help. We haven't had to go searching for the battery. If we wanted to put this on charge, we now know exactly what to set that particular charger to, if we wanted to. So we could do this prior to even doing any programming to the vehicle. We could go in and see it there. Or, you know, the vehicle comes in and you go to the boot or trunk and you open it up and you see it's full of golf clubs, it's full of everything else. You think, oh, I've got to take all this out. I'll get to the panel, then find out exactly what battery is installed into the vehicle. Providing the battery has been installed correctly and it's being registered, then we should have the correct information here on the screen. So there's 2 ways you can check the battery type. As you say, you can go into the boot or trunk and you can find it on top of the battery, or you can look inside the vehicle order and you can see it under EWART. Now, retrofit encoding is also a feature we have. So we can go into the menu of retrofits encoding, and it just gives us a warning screen to say to us about control units could be part of a process, and they will obviously then need to be coded at that particular time as well. And the Ethernet cable, OBD, is telling us it needs to be fitted, obviously. So We can now go in, we can see the chassis number, the date, but what we can also see is all the different retrofits. These are genuine BMW retrofits. This is not something where we've ordered something off the internet, where we got it from another country, and we find out that it's not a genuine fit. It will not work. We only cover genuine BMW retrofits. And as you see, next to each retrofit, there's possibly an SA number, which is telling us what that actual code is to be entered into the vehicle order. So we only can cover genuine retrofits. And there's a large list. And it will go on and on and on. And I'm just giving you a couple of screens here just so you can see exactly what's on that menu. So this is the part where what we want to try and do is we're in CIP and we have replaced, let's keep this simple, DSC control unit. And we've been in, it's created a measure plan for us, but that measure plan that we see on the screen is not exactly what we are trying to achieve, because we are trying to achieve to program the DSC control unit or code it. So I now have the option to change that measure plan. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to change the measure plan. So I select change measure plan. And now the menu of all the ECUs will come up. And I look through this menu till I find what I'm looking for. I keep hitting the next button. And I see DSC appears. I then press first the program button, and then into the white box next to it, it will show me the program and code, because I've asked to program it, so it's going to program it first, and then secondly it will code it. So I now need to hit the back button, and as I hit the back button, it will come back to a page which is on the first page, where the back button is, it has a save button. So you press save. Once you press save, you see it will say save changes to measure plan. We agree with that. And then we get another measure plan that's telling us exactly what we're going to do. In this situation, it says there it's going to program the DSC module, it's going to code the module. It tells us whether there's any service functions required. So off we go. CIP has been created for this vehicle. That's correct, it has. And then we press OK. And then that now has been generated. Press exit. And then we exit CIP. And then we go into the menu that shows us from the main menu, module, programming, and order manager. So we go in there. We go to send orders. Once we send the orders, we now can look in the menu there to find out the vehicle we're talking about. There's our F07. We then send that. Once we sent it, it will generate the sending of the order. That's the menu we will see. And then order's been sent. So we now have we've now created that order, we've now sent the order, we now wait our wonderful 20 minutes, and then in that time we should have had an email sent to us to say it's ready for downloading. Then we can go into the download order box. We can now see the last 7 of the chassis, and there's a little download button on the right hand side, green down arrow, and then the order is successfully applied. We say thank you very much, okay, back into CIP, and then we carry on. It will load that order, and then that will put that order into the DrivePRO, and we go ahead and we will program the DSC. So that's really the coverage we have today on CIP. I hope you've enjoyed that. And I need to find out if you've sent any questions in. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. And as you know, we have a technical department that can always help you if you have any issues. Please give them a call. And I'd just like to say, I see that there's been some people have come, obviously some people I know quite well. And I just need, Nicola, are you there?
Hello, Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nicola. How would you like me to address these?
The questions down the side.
I've been asked, one of the questions I've been asked is this the same procedure on the Assist Plus? It is exactly the same procedure on the Assist Plus. On Blue Box, it wouldn't be the same procedure, because on Blue Box, you have to have a USB where you would then generate and send off the file, but you'd have to download it onto a USB stick and plug that in, and then into the top of the Blue Box, and then take that file into the Blue Box to carry on to do your CIP programming. The beauty of the Assist Plus and the beauty of the DrivePRO is that you don't need the USB stick. You can download it directly into the tool. I've been asked another question regarding how can we program head units. At this particular time, we can't program head units. Not to say that we can't in the future, but I'm just saying at this particular time there is a stop on them. Huge programming issues. BMW have huge programming issues as well. And at the present moment, we do not carry out that function. I'm just going through the menu here to find out all the different questions. This is one about the Sys Plus. Okay. A lot of people I've known over the years have posted on there. It's great to know that they're all with us. As far as I can see, that's mainly most of the questions I have. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for watching this webinar. And I'd like to say to everybody, stay safe. Thank you very much indeed. If you have any questions, please call into the Technical Support Centre. Thank you very much indeed. Bye for now.